How are we all doing tonight, Beaver Creek? How excited is everybody to be in the Villar Performing Arts Center tonight? Yeah! This escalated quickly. If you were at our show last year, we were at a stage that was about this tall in the movie theater, and look at us now. Welcome to year number 2 of This Is My Brave, the show Eagle Valley. My name is Kyle Foster, and I'd like to thank everyone for coming tonight to witness Eagle County, Colorado, break the stigma of talking about mental health. Since we brought This Is My Brave to the stage for the first time last October, our worlds have been rocked by storytelling. Tonight we're excited to debut 5 new cast members and hear their stories of recovery, rising above, and advocacy. First and foremost, we'd like to take a moment to thank our sponsors. Without these local businesses, the show wouldn't be possible. So thank you to these businesses and organizations. Vail Health Behavioral Health, All Points North Lodge, Colorado Health Foundation, Vail Board of Realtors Foundation, Alpine Bank, Ewing Trucking and Construction, Beck Building, Weimer's Heating, U.S. Bank, Office of Suicide Prevention at the Colorado Department of Public Health and Environment, MTech, Intermountain Engineering, Your Hope Center. Where are my Hope Center people? I gotta hear from some of them. There, yeah, you're out there. All right, and of course, the Villar Performing Arts Center. Special thanks to Barry Eckhouse Photography and High Five Media Access for providing photography and videography. And of course, all of you for joining us. Yeah, give yourselves a round of applause. The show this evening is brought to you by Speak Up, Reach Out, which strives to prevent suicide in Eagle County through training, awareness, and hope. Storytelling is important in this work, as sharing experiences promotes healing. Here is a message from Speak Up, Reach Out.
When I think about what my brother was going through, I think of it like an avalanche.
There was this weight that started building.
The challenges were piling up.
The same way snowflakes fall out of the sky and they build and build, one on top of another.
I felt like there were all these expectations.
Overwhelming sadness.
He had this pain.
I just needed to run.
I wanted to hide.
He couldn't escape.
The weight of it all was just too much.
Everything had piled up to the point where I could no longer hold it all.
And just like heavy snow that keeps piling up,
I broke.
I gave up.
but with the right tools and resources.
Not only can we survive, but we can thrive.
And we could help others struggling in our community to do the same.
When your world comes crashing down around you, it can feel like no one understands. It is isolating and lonely. Whether it be that you have lost a loved one to suicide, you're having thoughts of suicide, or you are supporting someone who is struggling, Speak Up Reach Out is here for you. Through educational programs, peer support, and survivor outreach efforts, Speak Up Reach Out is helping people like you find meaningful answers and a renewed sense of hope. Hope comes in many forms. For some, it's being introduced to resources and support to navigate the journey of losing a loved one to suicide. For others, it's learning to ask the question, are you thinking of suicide? And getting a loved one the help that they need. And for some, it's connecting with others who have been through something similar and are just simply willing to listen. We know discussing suicide has the power to heal. We've experienced it firsthand. We bring the community together to learn and share their unique experiences because we believe that knowledge can save lives, and sharing experiences promotes healing. Become a local advocate for hope today and visit speakupreachout.org.
That was a pretty powerful video. And a fun fact is everybody that you saw in that video is either a board member of Speak Up Reach Out or an employee. So it's pretty cool to see them up on the big screen. Thank you to them for doing that. So as we get started, a few housekeeping items. If everyone could please take out their cell phone. We all have one, pull it out. We're a very social organization, and we want you to take lots of pictures, selfies, and even video clips, and share these on your social networks by tagging and hashtagging This Is My Brave and hashtag Storytelling Saves Lives. And now is going to be a good time we're going to do a little saying together. It's going to go camera on, ringers off. Everybody repeat it with me. Camera on, ringers off. Camera on, ringers off. All right, and I'm actually going to start us out here and show you guys how it's done. We're going to do a little video from the stage. How's everybody out there in the audience doing tonight? Yeah. Villar Performing Arts Center, Speak Up, Reach Out, and This Is My Brave. Thank you for being here. Gotta hit stop recording at some point. So one more time, cameras on, ringers off. Thank you. What you're about to experience defines what it means to live brave. We need your help to the world that we're here and that they can learn what it means to live brave too. So share away, don't be shy. Our team will do the best that they can to post as much as possible and to extend our reach. Since This Is My Brave is a storytelling organization, I thought it would make sense to tell you the story of how I learned about This Is My Brave and my reasons for getting involved. So just like in school presentations, it's super scary to prevent first. So I wanted to show my brave by going first and telling you a little bit about myself. I've been in recovery for 8 years now from alcohol and substance use. It was a long road to get me to where I was. I got really sick. I got so sick to a point where when I finally made it to the doctors, they told me I wasn't going to live to see the next morning. I told those doctors, bullshit, I'll see you in the morning, because I'm stubborn like that. And I will save you the rest of the gory details about how I bloated up to 210 pounds, turned yellow, looked like a Simpsons character. Because that stuff doesn't matter. What matters was the healing portion of the journey and what I found to help me overcome what was challenging me. And right at that time, I had just moved to the Valley, just moved to Eagle. And unlike many other people's rock bottom stories, mine started when things actually started getting good in my life. I really liked where I lived, I liked where I worked, I liked the people I met. I found community and I found connection. I made a friend, kind of more of an acquaintance as it started, through the bike shop. He was the only sober person I think I'd ever met in the last 10 years. And he was the first person I told, hey, I have a drinking problem and I need help. And right away, that one individual took me under his wing and was with me every step of the way. Even when I wanted to misstep, he was right there and helped me through it. And it made all the world a difference. Now, for the part of how I got involved with Speak Up, Reach Out. This is my friend Jonathan. We lost him to suicide in 2020. Speak Up, Reach Out gives hope and resources to our community so that hopefully no one else has to carry their friend around in a little box with them. And I'd be willing to bet that there are not too many degrees of separation between anyone in this room and losing someone that they care about to suicide. Storytelling, like you'll listen to tonight, can lengthen that gap and save lives. In the last year, I was brought on as a board member of Speak Up, Reach Out and became trained as a peer support lead. Now I can help people from the inside of the organization and down onto the community level. Peer support is what helped save my life, and I hope that myself and our team of peer support leads can pay that forward to the next people. To close out my story, I'd like to share a saying with you. Helping one person may not change the whole world, but it can change the world for one person. Because I choose to recover out loud so that those suffering in silence know that they are not alone. Thank you. This is my brave. We're about to take you on a journey. You'll laugh, you'll cry, you're gonna definitely cry. You'll be enlightened, inspired, and our hope is that you will leave with a transformed perception of the invisibility of mental illness thanks to the bravery of our cast members. This is the reality. 1 in 5. Let that sink in. Look at all the people in this room. 1 in 5 people live with a diagnosable mental health disorder. We don't talk about mental illness enough, and often people suffer in silence. That changes today, right here on this stage. We're shining a light on mental illness to show the world that we're your friends, colleagues, neighbors, and community members. We hope that through our storytelling, you will better understand mental illness and will be able to be more supportive to those in your life who may experience it. You may be inspired to share your own story. It's when we share our stories that we open up conversation, and storytelling saves lives. We're very grateful to have Marlon De Leon, Program Coordinator for This Is My Brave, with us this evening. He comes to us all the way from Indiana, representing the This Is My Brave national office based out of Leesburg, Virginia. Please give me a hand in welcoming Marlon De Leon.
Thank you, Kyle. Good evening, everyone. My name is Marlon De Leon. I know that because it says on the paper. My anxiety thanks the paper very much. And I am a program coordinator at This Is My Brave. I am excited to be here tonight. Are you? Okay, yes. As an organization, we have produced over 90 shows, and this is our second show here in Eagle Valley. Hey-o! This wouldn't be possible without the work and dedication put in by Laura and the production team, as well as the brave storytellers you are about to meet. I would also like to recognize our national sponsors who have made this season of Brave possible. Many thanks to Janssen Neuroscience, Karuna Therapeutics, Sage Therapeutics, and the Hollister Confidence Fund. Thank you to everyone who has played a role in this production on the local and national level. This Is My Brave is truly a whole community effort. But let's be real and give it up for Speak Up, Reach Out, the presenting organization. If you're just meeting This Is My Brave for the first time, here's a quick background. This Is My Brave was created in 2014 by Jennifer Marshall and Anne Marie Ames. For 7 years, Jennifer Marshall led this organization fearlessly, taking us from one show with 11 storytellers in Arlington, Virginia, to over 75 shows across the country with an alumni community of nearly 1,000 storytellers. Jen stepped down at the end of 2021, so we are here to continue the work combining storytelling and the performing arts. Since this is a storytelling organization, I'm going to tell you a story. This is how I became involved with This Is My Brave. In 2016, a social worker friend of mine sent me a Facebook invite for auditions for an event called This Is My Brave. Had no idea what it was about, but I'm a theater kid, so I auditioned. And I got in the show. And in 2016, in Chicagoland, in Valparaiso, Indiana, I shared a little bit about my story. Childhood abuse, military sexual assault, PTSD, depression, all of those things. I shared my brave on stage, so I know exactly what is going to be happening here tonight. Since then, I wrote a couple blogs for the website. I was on an episode of Brave TV that we've done online. And after speaking in a conference in Chicago in 2022, the Brave staff invited me to join them later that year. And so I've been with them for just over a year, and I get to do this now and help produce shows all over the country. This Is My Brave believes that when one person shares their story, it gives others permission to do the same. Brave multiplies brave. Our Brave Eagle Valley cast is about to join a community of storytellers from all over the country who have decided to be brave and share their truths on our stage. You are about to experience something magical, and you will be transformed after this event. Thank you so much for being here tonight, and I know you are going to enjoy this show. Kyle, the stage is yours.
Thank you, Marlon. All right, so now it is my distinct honor to welcome Eagle local Emily Brudwick to the stage performing the This Is My Brave theme song, Tell Them I'm Brave, written by Natalie Lane and Phoebe Scott. Come on out, Emily.
Hi, my name is Emily Brudwick. I'm a native to the Valley, and I'm here to take a moment to talk about my experience with mental health and suicide. Most people don't know this about me, but my maternal grandfather died by suicide when my mom was just 14 years old. I didn't know much about him, really only just the manner in which he passed away, until my freshman year of high school when my friend James also died by suicide. James's death was a pivotal moment for me and my classmates, kids who I had known since elementary school. At that time, we didn't have much help or direction or guidance when it came to losing a friend to suicide. Teachers, parents, counselors, no one knew what to say to us or how to help. We were forced to grow up a little bit faster then. In the years that followed, we would check up and check in on each other. Over time, though, some of us would develop some healthy and some not so healthy coping mechanisms. Unfortunately, without those healthy coping mechanisms, many more of those friends would succumb to the same mental health battles that both my grandfather and James did. When talking with my family about my grandfather once, I mentioned that I could probably name almost 10 people who I had known who had died by suicide, and I wasn't even in college yet. They were completely shocked. Unfortunately, that number has increased in the years since. Sadly, the Valley and I, this spring, experienced another loss to suicide. A young man who had worked with us. He was 16. After the news of his passing, I suddenly felt like a high school kid again. But it didn't take long to realize that I was no longer 14, and I wasn't facing this tragedy alone. That I was now the adult in this situation, and somehow I needed to be able to provide a positive impact for these kids. These kids whose lives had just been impacted incredibly and turned upside down. These kids in who I saw so much of myself and my classmates. So with the help of Speak Up, Reach Out and Your Hope Center, we were able to organize a gathering at Moe's, the restaurant where I work, and where I worked with him and so many of his friends. We opened the floor to talk about how it can be so devastating, and it can feel like everything is the end of the world when you're that age, and everything can feel so dark, and it can be hard to see the light. But there's always hope, and it's so important to find that hope and hang on to it. It's been 53 years since my mother lost her father. It's been almost 20 years now since we lost James. I'm so grateful that now we have access to organizations like Speak Up, Reach Out, Your Hope Center, Vail Health Behavioral Health, and This Is My Brave, to help reduce the stigma by increasing the conversations surrounding mental health, and to remind us that there is always hope and you don't have to suffer in silence. I'm Emily, and this is my Brave. I thought there was no way out. I used to be scared of the light, and I was swallowed by doubt. I'd forgotten what freedom was like. Puzzle pieces on the floor, they don't fit in anymore. I'm changing. When they ask you who I am, what I've done and where I've been, there's one thing I want you to say. Tell them I'm brave, see it on my face. I am bigger than anything coming my way. It's a new day and I'm not afraid. Some days I come out on top, and some days I can't catch a break. But when the fire don't stop, I won't wish my troubles away. I've been down and I've been out, but if you look at me now, I'm blooming, I'm moving into better, brighter days. See how this hope is here to stay. There's only one thing you can say. Tell 'em I'm brave, see it on my face. I am bigger than anything coming my way. It's a new day and I'm not afraid. So if anyone asks you how I overcame, you can tell 'em I'm brave. Oh, 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 we're gonna fight, gonna be alright. Yeah, we're gonna fight together every step of the way. Tell 'em we're brave, see it on our face. We are bigger than anything coming our way. It's a new day and we're not afraid. So if anyone asks you how we overcame, you can tell 'em we're brave. Oh, 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 tell 'em we're brave. Oh, 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 tell 'em we're brave.
Good job. That was awesome, Emily. Thank you. Okay. Please help me in welcoming our first brave cast member, Jamie Stone, who's going to be sharing a story that she calls Everest Without Oxygen.
All of us in this room, no matter our age, have many parts to our story. Tonight I'm going to share a part of my story from the last 13 years of my life. I collapsed against the long wall. It was an endless short hallway between my psychiatrist's office and the waiting room. I left her room smiling, as I always did, standing as tall as my 5'3" frame would allow, saying that I was fine, my lifelong mantra that I so believed to be true, and said that I'd see her the next day or the next week, depending on which day of the 3-day week schedule I was on. But this day, I had the feeling I wasn't fine. My head spun as I turned the door handle. I had just come back minutes before from a flashback too horrible to remember. It was an experience that played out over and over and over again. I would be in my appointment with my psychiatrist, and something we would be talking about, or a simple question from her, would make my hand involuntarily shoot to the right side of my head. And 10, 20, 30 seconds later, I would notice it, observe it, and try unsuccessfully to remove it from my face. And then I would feel myself begin to disappear. And I would try to claw my way back by talking out loud to myself, to my doctor, to whatever and whoever it was, telling it to stop. And I would begin to stammer, struggling to have thoughts, to stay where I was in the room where I sat. I would try so hard, and then in a moment, I would realize, I would know that no matter how hard I tried and how strong I was powerless. Powerless to make it go away, and powerless to stop it from doing what it was going to do. And knowing this, tears would spring to my eyes for a moment, and I would curl up, my hands covering my head, my forearms covering my ears, my eyes shut fast and firm, and my legs twisting around themselves. All so nothing could permeate my body or my being. I continued down the hall, leaning against it, willing myself to make it to the waiting room. There was no way I could make it out the door to the elevator. My wish was that my friend Karen, who was there to drive me home, would be the only one in the waiting room. Thankfully, she was alone. Trying as hard as I could to show her I was fine, trying to stand on 2 feet, I collapsed on the sofa, barely able to breathe. I could not catch my breath. I was exhausted beyond anything I had ever known, and realized in this moment that this was how I had been feeling for the last 6 years. Daily and nightly, multiple episodes of life-stealing flashbacks and screaming nightmares were uncontrollable and unbearable. I never knew when they would take me down. They waited just below the surface of my consciousness. There was clarity in this moment that these last 6 years felt like I was climbing Mount Everest. Incredibly steep. So steep that I could barely put one foot in front of the other. I was at a place on the mountain now where not only was the steepness seemingly insurmountable, but now, after years, there was no oxygen left to support my continuing to climb. I knew that the only thing that would get me to the summit, to not stop then and there, was grit, and the belief and hope that there was some form of oxygen that would help me to continue the seemingly endless, crushing climb. Not long after this episode, in 2015, I was listening to Colorado Public Radio, and they were interviewing a woman named Brenda, who was sharing her story of being part of the Multidisciplinary Association for Psychedelic Studies Research using MDMA-assisted therapy for people with PTSD, veterans, and people like me with complex PTSD. Brenda's story was similar to mine, repeated trauma from childhood. I listened to the way she described how the medicine worked, creating space in her brain, calming her amygdala, and allowing her to process her trauma without being triggered. Something in me knew that this was the key to my healing. While my flashbacks and nightmares continued relentlessly, and I contemplated ways to end my life, I read, researched, and reached out to anyone familiar with this treatment. 6 years later, in the fall of 2021, I found myself in the hands and heart of a facilitator with years of professional and multicultural experience with psychedelics, and I received the MDMA-assisted therapy. My intuition was right, and I felt it right away. A whole new healing journey began, one that eventually brought me this year to psilocybin mushroom-assisted therapy, where that experience brought me even further, to my clearest and truest self. My husband, kids, and friends will tell you that it has been transformational. I am off all of my antidepressants. I am back participating in life. I am biking and hiking and skiing and sliding down slides with our grandchildren. And I am up here right now sharing my story with a clear and flowing voice. I want you to know, I want you to see that there is oxygen out there, and there is hope for you too. I'm Jamie Stone, and this is my Braves. Thank you. Thanks.
Thank you, Jamie. And those boots, they were made for storytelling and breaking stigmas. MDMA-assisted therapy is in its final phase of research. Results of the most recent trial of MDMA-assisted therapy for post-traumatic stress disorder have been published in Nature Medicine magazine and are expected to be filed with the FDA later this year. Therapies like this are intended to be facilitated by experienced professionals only. As a child, Tiffany was diagnosed with bipolar 1, major depression disorder, and generalized anxiety disorder. Medication after medication, doctor after doctor, try after try, and not the progress that Tiffany and her family wanted. Tiffany Manchester, please come up on stage and share with us your story of overcoming this difficult situation.
Hi. I should not be here today. I should not be standing here. After college, I graduated, and I graduated from college, so I just graduated. And then I moved to New York, and I started working for CBS Television in their special events department. And they moved us to what at the time was one of the best buildings in New York City. We went to the 87th floor of the North Tower of the World Trade Center. And it was beautiful, and we loved it. And on this gorgeous September morning, my friends and I were sitting there at work at dark, and a plane decided to crash into our building. And so we're still kind of working, and all of a sudden, what we hear is shelter in place. And we looked at each other and we said, fuck that shit. So we did a shelter in place, and we walked down the very, very dirty stairs of 87 floors of that tower. You can see I'm wearing heels now, but after that experience, my friends and I go nowhere without flip-flops. This is a very important rule, I would think, for everybody in the mountains, but in particular in cities when you gotta go up and down 87 flights of stairs. Our team had to relocate, obviously. We had no building anymore. So we had to relocate, and my part of the team moved to what was known at that time as the Broadcast Center, and that was in New York still, and 57th and the River, which is lovely in the winter. And so we moved over there, and they got all of our team together and said, the executives, they got us all together and they said, we're gonna do whatever we can to help you guys in what you need. So remember, we're in special events and golf tournaments and football and all of that good stuff. And so they said, we'll do whatever you need. You just let us know and we will be there to help you. And so we let them know, and they didn't do anything. So at that point, our self-confidence started shattering. Our work started suffering. We all drifted away from one another because there was a big lack of trust at that point. Everybody thought everyone was getting help, and no one really was. So we all really kind of stopped talking to each other. After another job in New York City, I decided that I needed a change. I needed a big change. So I moved to DC to work on Obama's second inauguration. And I really thought I could make a go of it there because change of scenery, change of space, but wherever you go, there you are, right? And so at one point I decided it just wasn't worth it anymore. I was gonna get them back. I was going to take my life. And so I called my psychiatrist the next morning, and not feeling particularly great, and clearly I'm still here. And so I called my psychiatrist, who was in New York, and I said, Doctor, I'm not feeling great. I've lost my medication. Can you send over a new prescription? Call the pharmacy, do whatever you need to do. And he said, I'll call you back in 10 minutes. In 10 minutes, the front desk said, there's someone down here for you. You need to come down. So I came down, fully expecting to have my prescription there waiting for me, right? Because it's all about me. And So what ended up happening is I went downstairs. This is a Friday afternoon, and in DC on Friday afternoons, it's traffic, and you kind of don't want to be in a car. But what he said is, come with me. So I came with him, and I thought we were going to the pharmacy. But we ended up going to the nearest psych ward. And so the doctor up there, who I loved, said, the only reason you're still here is because of God. He's not ready for you. So I was there for 3 months, and I tried lots of things, and I met my people. My people are highly sensitive people. And we held hands just because it felt safe. And we got to know one another, and we took care of one another. So I left after 3 months, and they had given me a doctor to see outside of the hospital because I couldn't live there forever. And so I did, and I went to see her, and we chatted for a while. And after we had chatted for a little while, she said to me, one of the most wonderful things I've ever heard, I can't help you, and neither can anyone else. So I left, not feeling so great, and I decided my last option, thinking back to my doctor in the hospital, my last option is God. So I went back to my hotel, and yes, I had my hotel the whole 3 months I was in there. And so I went back to the hotel, and I listened to a sermon, the latest sermon from the closest Episcopal church to my hotel. And I loved the sermon, so I decided that the next Sunday I was going to go to that church. So I went the next Sunday. I went to the early service, and that rector wasn't there, pastor, and there was another woman there who was the rector for that Sunday, and she was fabulous. And so because she was talking to me, room was filled, but she was talking to me, I decided that I was going to walk right up to her after the service, walk right up to her and say, hi, my name is Tiffany, we need to talk. And so she pulled me aside and she said, how about if you come to the next service and then I'll go take you up to my office. So I did. And I came back to the next service and we went up to her office and she handed me 3 stones and she said, I can feel you vibrating. And so she said, we talked for a little while, and she said, I really would like you to come back tomorrow. Come to the service, because they had daily services. She said, come to the service tomorrow, and then I'll take you out to lunch. I said, okay. So I went back to the next day. I went back to my hotel. I went back to the service the next day, and she took me to lunch, and then she put me in her car. And I'd like to point out at this point that no luggage has moved around. So she took me back to the hospital, and callers do work. So I moved up much faster. I was not in the emergency department for 3 days. I was immediately moved up to the psychiatric ward, and I was there for another 3 months. No luggage. So I'm still wearing the, hospital stuff. But while I was up there this time, I had somebody actually say to me, another patient, who said, you're magical. You just don't know it yet. And she painted something for me and put that on there, and I still have it to this day. So then I got released, and I got a new doctor, and then COVID hit. And it was, Washington went boom. And you could go to the grocery store, or you could go to the liquor store, but nowhere else. You couldn't go to the psychiatrist, you couldn't go to the doctor, you couldn't go to the hospital, you couldn't go to church, I couldn't go to work. Oh yeah, I had a job by then. So I decided that I was going to move to Lake County, just down the road a little bit. I was going to move to Lake County, and I was going because I couldn't be by myself. I couldn't take the isolation. I knew myself well enough at that point. So I moved to Lake County to be with my family, and at that point, I'll go back. I'm going to take you back a little bit. And when I left Jenny, or when I was still with Jenny and she was helping me, my rector at church, she helped me get an art therapy master's and an arts education master's, and she had me working with her kids in the church. So when I came out here to Lake County and I had these two things, I decided to start working with the kids in the school district. And that was fantastic. So then I got a new therapist, I got new medication, I started working with the kids in the school, and I started working on a new program that is going to kick off pretty soon in Lake County. Now, what I want to show you, because this is where it really all shows where the movement has changed in my life. When I was in there for the second time in the psych ward for the 3 months hospital gown, they asked me to go to art therapy. They wanted me to spend a lot of time in art therapy. And so the first time I was in there, they asked me to draw how I felt. And I said, I don't know how I feel. And they said, just draw it. So, I see fear. Don't be scared. This is what I drew. And it was pretty bleak, right? Yeah. But today, I'm a little scared right now. This is what I paint. My name is Tiffany Manchester, and this is my brave.
Good job. Thank you, Tiffany. So our next storyteller told stories with us last year, and this is our second time sharing the stage together. And apparently when you do 2 This Is My Brave shows, you have such a connection that you start getting the same haircut and wearing the same vests. That's how connected we get as a cast. But our next storyteller is going to be telling a story about a suicide intervention, and despite being trained, reminds us that it's okay to have your own human experience. Perfection is not the intention, vulnerable, humble presence is. Please help me welcome our returning storyteller, Sarah Alder.
Do over, amend, rectify, repair, remedy, second chances. Second chances? While these are not very common, we do wish for and often deeply desire them in moments of regret, distress, and even remorse. Sometimes we wish for second chances when things go well, and we want to relive that moment again on magical replay. The instance I was graced with a second chance was when I was able to ask the hardest and most important question that has entered my dialogue almost on a weekly basis. Let's go back to the middle. You thought I was going to go to the beginning, huh? Well, I have no idea where the true beginning was or how it started, but I do know when I appeared in this specific scene.
It's over. We're done. I miss him and I'm angry with him. He promised me so many things to keep me safe. I just don't understand.
Tears of loss, confusion, sorrow, and desperation streamed down her face. There was a fragility to her in that moment, not one where she was so delicate a whisper could break her, but fragile in that she no longer had solid ground to stand on and had lost her footing. I'm so sorry, Amanda. That is a huge loss. It seems like family is important to you, and now that is gone. You're really hurting right now. We sat on the couch as the sun streamed through the windows on the clear, crisp winter day, not warming and comforting us in this moment. It was merely shedding light on one of her darkest days. sitting there, exposed, vulnerable, and destroyed, but strangely, all in one piece. My own discomfort was percolating under my skin. Why was this day so bright and beautiful? Didn't the universe know that Amanda was hurting? Stop it! Is there a reason why the weather can't match this awful moment? I regrouped and focused my attention on Amanda.
I just don't understand. We were planning so many things for our future, and now he says he's unhappy?
Sitting there amidst her pain, I listened intently and offered whatever comfort I could, promising in a hopeful and yet non-specific way that everything will be okay. You are resilient, resourceful, and strong. You will be okay. After a few moments of talking, crying, and trying to regain some footing, I left her with a long hug and words of affirmation that I prayed gave her some hope. The drive home was somber and hollow. There was something missing, but what was it? Maybe I'm just hungry and I need to regroup. It's fine, everything's fine, she will be fine. Then it arrived, a knot in my stomach. Something was not right. What was I missing? Distracting myself for the next few hours seemed like the most logical thing to do, so I did. Enjoying my family while going shopping, eating dinner, even having a drink with my wife, because I had a fresh sense of how grateful I am to have my family. Ugh, something feels very wrong, but what? Let's flash forward to the end for a moment. I was crying and shaking. I felt like I was holding her life in my hands. No, I literally am holding her life in my hands. How did I miss this? I have all the training and know all the things to ask. I was so close, and I missed it. I realized I made the very honest mistake that some of us may have experienced. I forgot to ask it. One of the hardest questions, but for me has been up to this moment so easy. Are you having thoughts of suicide? That is like Suicide Prevention 101, and I didn't ask it. I was shaking from terror, guilt, and shame. Let's flash back to the second chance. I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off, and the knot in my stomach never went away. The entire 6 hours after that conversation, I was trying to ignore it. I must call Amanda. Something doesn't feel right. While dialing her, I was obviously very nervous. Was it too late? What if she doesn't answer? What do I do then? Oh God, what if I am too late? My mind was spinning out of control and my heart was racing. Each ring of the phone was an eternity. How many eternities could I endure before having to drive over there?
Hi, Sarah.
My heart skipped a beat and I held my breath. She answered. It wasn't too late. I'm not too late. Oh God, thank you. Thank God. Hey, I wanted to check in on you. How are you feeling?
No, I'm okay. It all just comes in waves.
The heaviness of her sorrow weighed her words down. Yeah, I'm sure. It feels very similar to grief, and I know what that is like. I'm so sorry, Amanda. So I've been struggling with something that I forgot to ask, and I would be remiss if I didn't ask it now. I was embarrassed and scared, shaking from anticipation. What if she gets mad at me? What lies to me? What if she hangs up and then does something? Amanda, I have to ask, are you having thoughts of suicide? Everything froze. I did and did not want to hear the answer.
Yes.
My body was still frozen, but my brain kicked into autopilot. Do you have a plan?
I have some pills left over from my surgery. I was thinking of using those.
Amanda, it is really important that we keep you safe right now. Can I come and get those from you? What if she's about to take those pills right now? Or what if she won't give them to me? What if she keeps enough to complete her plan and gives me the rest just so I'll go away? You don't have to explain anything to me. You don't even have to see me. Just put them on the front porch and I will come and get them right now. Can you do that for me?
Yes, I'll put them on the front porch.
Outside, in the darkness of the mountain night air, it finally matched the desperation, loss, and emptiness of that entire day. Now the universe is aligned with the mood. Driving down the road, it was the longest 5-minute drive of my life. It felt like a 14-hour road trip with no radio. A resounding silence. Who knew that silence could be so deafeningly loud? The cars around me and my thoughts matched in racing velocity. How could I be moving so slow and everything else so fast? Arriving at her house, I was terrified it wasn't going to be there. Then what? Knock, break down the door. We can't call the police. That's like criminalizing mental health. Besides, what would they do? Arrest it? Please let it be there. As promised, it was on the porch. I clung to the container as if my life, her life, depended on it, which it did. I held her life in my hands. Let's flash forward to the end again. When I arrived back home, my wife asked if she and I were okay. Yeah, I think so. I sat down feeling drained, stunned, and shocked. Tonight, I got something no one ever really gets in this work. I shook my head in total disbelief. A second chance. A second chance to save her life and keep her safe. Tears of gratitude welled up. I felt so humbled and honored to be present and brave enough to seek my second chance so Amanda could have hers too. Let's flash forward to a few weeks later.
I shared with another friend about how you showed up for me. They're so grateful for what you did, and so am I. I am still here because of you.
Second chances. They're not always common or how we might expect them, but this one was mine. I learned how important it is to be brave and ask for that second chance, or to give a second chance, which is better than never receiving one at all. I'm Sarah Alder, and this is my Brave.
That is a perfect example of how big of a difference one person and one connection can make. Thank you for sharing that with us, Sarah. Our next storyteller has called the Vail Valley home for nearly 30 years, has 2 incredible young adult children, lives with her husband and love of her life, Tom. Julie has been building an empowering community in the Valley for years through different wellness-based businesses and now through the sharing of her inspiring story. Please welcome Julie Cadieux to the stage.
Hi, everyone. It is an honor to be here tonight. I am here to offer a message of hope by sharing my own personal journey through resilience, power, and freedom. I am the author of Bipolar, a book that I published in 2018 about my personal struggles with mental health and the healing that I found along the way. Tonight's chat, I'm going to break down into 3 categories: how I found my resilience, how I found my power, and how I found my freedom. So first I'll start with ways in which I found my resilience. And these aren't necessarily fun. However, they're ways in which I became resilient and why I'm standing here today. When I was 7, I was molested by my male babysitter, and I kept it a secret from my parents for over 10 years. When I was 16, I was backpacking in the mountains of Colorado with a friend from high school, and we both were sexually assaulted. I have no doubt in my mind, had we not been rescued, we would have been raped and left for dead. A little over a year later, I was a senior in high school, and my mom and I went on a college trip. And even though I wasn't going to be going to college for a year later, the thought of going off to college made me very anxious. And while we were away, I began to become super anxious. I lost my appetite, my sleep went out the window. And by the time I got back to school on that Monday, I had a very hard time concentrating. So my parents pulled me out of school for what we thought was going to be a few days. It ended up becoming 5 months. I missed 2 quarters of my senior year of high school. That fall, my anxiety manifested into a pretty significant depression, and it eventually got so bad that my parents didn't know what to do with me. So along with the help of my psychiatrist at the time, I was hospitalized. It was December 9th, 1987, a date which I used to loathe, and I've actually come to celebrate. So that first night in the hospital, I was taken cold turkey off of all the medications I had been put on that fall. By the next morning, my depression went from worse to worser. And I woke up, barely, but I was catatonic, staring at the ceiling walls of the hospital, not speaking, not functioning at all. And then I remember the heavy-duty drugs came. I got a shot in the hiney and multiple other medications to pull me out of the funk that I was in. While I was in the hospital, I was labeled bipolar. I had a psychiatrist who shared with my parents all the hope we ever could have wanted. She said, Julie will get better. She will lead a normal life. She will graduate from high school. She will go to college, she will get married one day, and she will have kids. And she was right. I graduated from high school. That following fall, I went to college. I did another 2-week stint in the hospital with a medication change. And then I graduated from the University of Minnesota in 1994. Shortly thereafter, I moved to Vail, Colorado, almost 29 years ago. And again, the doctor was right. I met the love of my life, Tom, and we have a 20-year-old son and an 18-year-old daughter. And my children are my biggest gifts and whom I consider to be miracles. When it was probably in 2005-ish, I was unlabeled bipolar. However, I know what it's like to live with the shame and the stigma that comes with a label. I also know what it's like to live with anxiety and depression, neither of which are very fun. And I'm here to tell you, there's life on the other side. I still experience anxiety and depression. It's just my relationship to it has changed. So those are really ways in which I found my resilience. And then I'll move into how I started to find my power. So it was probably in about 2007, I decided I was ready for something beyond therapy and just things I had been doing in the past, so I started doing yoga. And then shortly after I had started yoga, I did a program that involved yoga and meditation, mindful eating, and personal inquiry journaling. And what I got to discover during the personal inquiry is that despite these things happening to me in my past, they didn't define me. They actually gave me my life's purpose. And I also got to distinguish that we can't change the past, however, we can change how we view the past. I also saw how the repressing and the suppression of being molested and keeping it a secret for so long from my parents, how that is what made my depression even worse. And while I was writing my book, I read Brené Brown's book, Daring Greatly. And in that book, she quotes a researcher, psychologist, James Pennebaker. And he did a study on 2 different groups of people. One group of people who was molested and shared, and the other who were molested and kept it a secret. And the impacts of the group who kept it a secret of depression was far more significant than the people who shared. And I just want to share a quote with you, and it's on the board too, but the act of not discussing a traumatic event or confiding it into another person could be more damaging than the actual event. So just let that sink in for a minute. So it's not even what you're hiding, it's the hiding that's the impact. And that's really what I got to see in my own story. And then really what brought me my freedom was in the expression of my story. And I had a healer. I had my fair share of shrinks and psychologists and therapists, and they're all great and have a time and a place. I was just ready for something different. And one of mine had told me, she said, "Julie, it is your mission to demystify anxiety and depression. You are meant to go out and share with the world, to make a difference for others." And I'll never forget the next night I was in one of my yoga meditation programs, and there were 35 people in the room. And it was at the Vail Athletic Club, and formerly the yoga studio faced south towards Vail Mountain and has windows. And this was the first time I ever shared publicly that I had been labeled bipolar. Previously, I would share, but only with one person, and if you ever told anybody, I would stick a needle in your eye. It was a secret. And so I had shared, I got ready, and I shared with this big group what I had been through, not to the extent of tonight. And something must have been going on Vail Mountain, and all of a sudden, fireworks went off and lit up the whole room. And I took that as a sign from God that I was meant to share. And since then, I've been sharing, whether on social media or with a friend, or when I was teaching yoga in a class. And so I just invite you, wherever you are in your journey, to share. There's a lot of power in sharing, whether it's with a friend, a parent, a therapist. It could be in a setting like this, be on stage next year. But just to share, your story matters, and the ripple effect it could create for other people in the healing could be really powerful. And I also want to share that there is always hope. The pastor of my church says you can go 3 days without water. You can go 40 days without food, but you can't go a second without hope. Thank you, Dean. You're not done with me yet. I'm just going to close by reading the last 2 paragraphs of my book, Bipolar. I do not claim to have all of the answers or even a fraction. All I do know is that there was a time in my life when it seemed as though I would never get better. And what I want to share is that there is always hope. The kind of hope I am talking about is not where one sits around waiting for something to happen. It is having a strong faith in knowing that there is always the possibility of change, especially if one is willing to do the work. Hold on to what you believe in, whether you are the one struggling or you know someone who is. Never give up. Keep your eyes on your true North Star, even if your vision is blurry at times. You don't need to see the star, just believe, trust, and have faith that it is there. I'm Julie Cadu, and this is My Brave.
Thank you, Julie. And if anybody hasn't seen the cover of Julie's book, it's a play on words. And after I tell you the play on the words, you won't be able to think of it any other way. But it is bipolar. You gotta imagine the kick. But that book will be available after the show for a donation at the Speak Up, Reach Out booth. Tonight, our brave cast was able to shine a light on a topic that we don't talk about enough. I'd like to take a moment to ask our audience to be brave with us and to please stand if you yourself have experienced a mental health challenge or if someone you love has. We're all affected by mental illness, and simply being here tonight was an incredible start to building upon a movement of people who are willing to be more open and more supportive of those struggling. We hope that you'll think of This Is My Brave, and they'll use this experience that you shared with us tonight as a way to start the conversation and keep it going. This is what it means to live brave. You may be seated. After our final performance tonight, we'd love to meet you in the lobby where we can gather and visit with some of our sponsors and our cast. Before I introduce the final storyteller of this evening, I want to let everyone know that the song he'll be performing is available for download with a donation through the QR code in your playbill in the lobby, and performing an original piece he wrote to spread awareness. Please welcome Dean Martin Robbins.
Hi, everybody. I wrote this song hoping to help, so I hope it does. Talk to me. Even if I'm not the one you need to say it to, don't keep it all inside and let it grow in you. Talk to me. All your life you have been told that it's weak to cry, and I'd rather dry a million tears and say goodbye. Please talk to me. Talk to me. I'm the guy in the bar whose mind is open wide. I'm the man sitting at the bus stop waiting for a ride. I'm just walking with my dog and I got time to hear. I'm the friend you haven't seen for 20 years, but I still got ears, so buddy, talk to me. Talk to me. I can't promise any answers, but I listen good. I hear every word you say, I hope that's understood. Talk to me. I'm not here to judge or question anything you say. Take a minute or an hour or 1,000 days. I don't mind how long it takes, just talk to me. Talk to me. I'm the guy in the bar whose mind is open wide. I'm the man sitting at the bus stop waiting for a ride. I'm just walking with my dog and I got time to hear. I'm the friend you haven't seen for 20 years, but I still got ears, so buddy, talk to me. Talk to me about the weather. Talk about the wrong and right. We can talk about whatever. Don't let your worries take your life. We can talk the darkness into light. So talk to me. Talk to me. Talk to me. My name's Dean Martin Robbins. I hope this song helps you find your brave.
The song gets better every time you play it. So when Dean and I first met at rehearsal a couple weeks ago, we were talking music, and he told me that he ended up as the singer of one of his old bands by default. And I don't think that was by default. I think that band knew exactly where they were putting you. All right. So we want to take this time to thank our wonderful directors and mental health professionals who have worked tirelessly, putting their sweat, tears, analogies into making this show a success. We are grateful for their expertise both on stage and in the field of mental health. Thank you, Travis Wilson, Courtney Russell, and Khushbu Sadadawali. Let's give them a hand. And the next person we're thanking didn't know that this thank you was coming. We also would like to take this time to thank a person whose dream it was to bring This Is My Brave to Eagle Valley, and who worked tirelessly to make it happen. The executive director of Speak Up, Reach Out, Aaron Ivey. Give it up for Aaron. It was really hard to keep that a secret from you, Aaron. All right, let's give it up for our brave storytellers.